Welcome to the album show, and this week we're going to be chatting to Dan Chadburn, who has a brand new album out called Nocturnes. Now, I'd like you, Dan, welcome to the show first off.
Thank you, Steve. It's good to be here with you.
And give me an overview about Nocturnes and tell me a little bit about it.
Nocturnes originally was going to be a lullabies album. I had several friends kind of encourage me to create an album that would inspire and soothe and heal. And right at about the time I was going to start recording the album, I lost the first of three good friends. And over a period of about 6 months, during the passing of these three friends, I really had kind of a hard time dealing with the deaths. And so I went into the studio. We have a studio here in our basement in our home, and I recorded about 9 or 10 of the piano tracks, which ultimately became the foundation for the Nocturnes album. And as it turned out, rather than being a lullabies album, we kind of regrouped. I say we, my husband and I, my husband Tom Nichols, who is also a musician, he and I kind of regrouped and thought about it, and thought that the way the tracks were ultimately turning out, it was more of a Nocturnes theme.
Yeah.
And it still kept the idea of the soothing and the healing, and certainly I want my music to inspire. But in an odd way, it was almost more healing to me to have that time in the studio, because it helped me deal with the deaths of my three good friends.
Moving on to the track Abundance, we're now joined also by, is it Helen Hausman?
Yes.
Tell me about that one.
Abundance was kind of, I struggled with that title of all things for that track. And again, I asked two good friends of mine, Jack Killen and Fred Boykin. I said, what does this song sound like to you? And they kept on coming up with abundance or generosity, or, one of them said Thanksgiving, which of course here in the States is meaningful to many of us. But when they said abundance, it really latched on to me. It began again as a piano improv, and Helen Hausman, good friend, wonderful violinist and viola player, wonderful fiddle player, although we didn't use her for that on this album, but she's an extraordinary musician. It kind of began as a duet with her, between me and on the piano and her on her instrument. And then I thought, I really want to add that other texture, that other color.
Yeah.
And so I ended up scoring it for French horn as well. And Marty Hackelman, who at the time was the principal hornist for the National Symphony Orchestra here in the States, we were fortunate to have him play on that track. And that one to me kind of brings me back to my childhood in a way. Some of the harmonic textures and the melodic theme of that, for some reason, it kind of evokes memories of my childhood. So Abundance, again, I think it was a good suggestion by my friends Jack and Fred on that. So.
Now come to the emotive piece of music that we were talking about earlier. And when I listen to this, I don't like to read the notes about the album. I like to feel the music for myself. And so I write from my heart, literally. And during this, I found it very respectful and a very moving track. And it reminded me a little bit of the late John Lord, former Deep Purple keyboard player, who sadly has passed away as well. And he wrote an album for his parents before he died. And I found that had the same effect on me. It was so beautiful, but extremely sad as well at the same time.
Thank you. Peter's theme, Peter Fox. Let me just talk a little bit about Peter Fox first. Peter was a good friend of ours, of many here in the Washington, D.C. area. He was a musician late in life. He died young. I think he was 44, 45 when he died. And you'd walk into a room and there were 1,000 people in the room. Every eye would go to Peter because he was just a very vibrant, dynamic kind of guy. Yeah. And he passed way too soon. And while I wanted to write something that was a tribute to him, I kept coming back to just this kind of almost, I don't want to say a simple melody in the string because it's not, I wanted to write something that was a nice tribute to him. And what evolved was Peter's theme. Helen Houseman again played the string on that. And Peter, one thing that he did before he died, he always liked the fact that kids could have an opportunity to be involved in the arts. And there's an organization called the Sitar Arts Center in Washington, D.C., where kids, many of them coming from underprivileged homes, are able to attend these arts programs after school. And so we created the Peter Fox Project, which thereby created the Peter Fox Award to be given to one student at the Sitar Arts Center every year so that they could go on and pursue their interests in the arts. And I wanted something on the album to be given back to Peter via the Sitar Arts Center. So we decided to, again, much like Anne's Lullaby with the Family Resiliency Center, we decided to donate the tracks from Peter's theme to the Peter Fox Project, which in turn offers the scholarship to the Sitar Arts Center. And I don't know, it's hard for me to put into words because that song in particular is so close to my heart, but I listen to it and I it's almost like I sense Peter when I hear it. I know that sounds a little weird maybe.
No, not at all.
Peter was such a joy to so many people here. My husband was actually one of Peter's caretakers at the end, and as Tom was holding Peter's hand as he was dying and helping the family cope with it. The music was such an integral part of Peter's life that it just seemed fitting to write this piece and dedicate it to him. So that's Peter's song, Peter's theme.
I think, just to elaborate slightly further, Dan, I believe, should I say, that music is the language of the universe anyway. So I think what you've done here is create that resonance with his energy wherever he is, and that's probably why you feel like that.
Absolutely. I was blessed to have known him, and I'm blessed to have the memory of him.